This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The New York Mets blew a 5-run lead. They have now lost 7 games in a row, 11 of their last 12. And boy, does it feel like the season is spiraling out of control in front of our very eyes. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I am your postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you in what has become Mets therapy sessions here after Mets games as of late. You can't make this up anymore. The Mets are inventing and finding new ways to lose. The offense played pretty well today. They put up enough runs that you would expect them to be able to win. They had everything set up the way that you would want them to have it, yet here we are once again talking about another Mets loss. The Reds are breathing down their necks for the final playoff spot in the National League. Cannot believe that this season has gotten to this point. But yes, let's break this one down, and let's start with the bullpen.
This is what you'll be talking about.
After some of these postcasts, or after some of these games on the postcasts, during this 12-game stretch where the Mets have struggled, most of the time we get on here, I hit that open, and we're talking about the offense. Most of the time we're talking about a team that didn't come through with the big hit with runners in scoring position, or the big hit with 2 outs, or a starter not giving the Mets a chance, right? Spotting the opposition a 4, 5, 6-0 lead, and the Mets just have a massive hole to dig out of. Now, we'll talk about Manaea here in a little bit, because it was not the best start from Manaea, and certainly put the Mets in this tough situation with how much they had to use their bullpen. But the Mets were set up to use the brand new bullpen that they set up at the deadline. All of the moves that David Stearns and the Mets front office made at the deadline were to set up this scenario. Tyler Rogers in the 7th, Ryan Helsley in the 8th, Edwin Diaz in the 9th. Their entire work at the trade deadline was to build that bullpen to where if they got to the 7th inning with a lead, these were the guys they wanted in the high leverage spots to hold on to a lead. So we can talk about Manaea not pitching very well. We can talk about overall the offense in general as of late. Today's game is on a bullpen that was built for this moment. And in the midst of everything else that is going wrong with this team, the bullpen stepped up and they said, it's our turn to be a part of this mess, because they gave up a lead that they just had no business giving up. You can't blow a 5-0 lead in the middle of August during a playoff race. You just can't do it. I mean, the Mets, all 3 games this weekend jumped out to an early lead. All 3 games they had a lead and they were unable to hold them, whether it was the starter giving it up or in today's case, it was the bullpen giving it up. I mean, you use Tyler Rogers for a 3rd consecutive day. That's the benefit of who Tyler Rogers is as a pitcher, but also the built-in benefit of the off day that the Mets have tomorrow. Carlos Mendoza, late in this game, treated this like it was a playoff game in some ways. I got to have it. I'm going to use a reliever for 3 straight days. I'm going to go to my high leverage arms, and I'm going to have Edwin Diaz up and ready if I need to go to a 4 or 5 out save. We are ready to go here. We have to win this game. And yet it's set up perfectly for the New York Mets. They had all 3 guys in the 3 spots that they wanted them in. Credit to the rest of the bullpen for getting it to that point. And the Mets were unable to get the job done. It's just unfathomable that this team continues to find and invent ways to lose. They scored in the first 5 innings of this game. The first 5 innings, every single inning, they put a run on the board. You felt great about the way the offense played today. And yet here we are once again talking about another loss. Let's go back where things started. It was the 8th inning. The Mets had a 6-5 lead. It was Ryan Helsley who got the call, the Mets' new setup man, and he started with a walk, got ahead of Bryce Terang 0-2, probably should have gotten a called 3rd strike on a slider. There was also a four-seam fastball that he threw that just missed the zone. Ended up going from 0-2 to a walk. And then after getting Sal Frelick to fly out, there was a single that set things up first and second. You start to see the wheels in motion. You're starting to get a little worried, panicked that this lead is going to slip away. And then he gets Lockridge to strike out. You're thinking, okay, he's going to do a little Houdini act and get out of it. Ortiz singles, Terang scores, the game is tied, and then the Mets have to go to Edwin Diaz because they try to hold the game right there. And then you don't need much. There's not much to talk about there in the bottom of the ninth because Edwin Diaz faced one batter, and Issac Collins hit a walk-off home run to end it. That's it. That's where the game was lost here tonight or this afternoon for the New York Mets. They went to Ryan Helsley in the eighth, the guy that they want on that mound, almost got out of it, had 2 outs, gave up the hit to tie it, and then Edwin Diaz served up the walk-off shot in the bottom of the ninth inning. A lot more to unpack here. The offense played a lot better. They scored 6 runs. They got off to an early start here. They piled on. They didn't just score 1 or 2 runs and then tried to rest on that output. The offense was better today. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Sean Manaea not giving the Mets a whole lot of anything. The other stuff to keep an eye on, the turning point in this game. Your thoughts as well, always welcome here on the Mets Postcast. So we will get to all of that here on the other side. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue. Makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your color speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. And it's not just hats. Check out their split shade gloves that are made for the golf course or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Subtle, stylish. You can rep your team, pairs perfectly with your usual gear. Doesn't replace your team's logo, just adds to your lineup. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You can take a flyer on an MVP race. Perhaps you think Saquon Barkley is going to get that first MVP for a non-quarterback. You can take your shot. Crown your champion in August. Maybe you want to pick one of the New York teams to win a Super Bowl, or you can parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Back here on the Mets Postcast, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. Chris Schubert with you, recapping the Mets' 7th consecutive loss, a sweep at the hands of the Milwaukee Brewers, and this one, a tough one. They've all been tough. These 7 in a row have been tough. The 11 of the last 12 have been tough, but there was something different about this game because you thought that despite Sean Manaea not giving you a quality start, not giving you his best, with the way the offense performed in this game, you felt like today might be the day that, no, the Mets didn't break out. No, the Mets didn't get things back on course, but they at least stopped the bleeding and that they could move this team potentially in the right direction, at least allow us for one moment here recently to enjoy something out of this team because the offense was there. Cedric Mullins hit his first home run as a New York Met. Pete Alonso with an RBI in today's game. Juan Soto on base a bunch in this contest. Beatty with an opposite field home run on the road. I mean, you got contributions. Ronnie Mauricio with 2 hits in this game. Contributions from a lot of different pieces of this lineup. Yes, Francisco Lindor is still struggling. Yes, Brandon Nimmo is still struggling, although I wonder if the 2 walks maybe gives him some confidence at the plate with him having a good eye and at least getting on base, and then the sac bunt, moving things over. But the Mets, I mean, the offense has been the center of our frustration, right? They have been the center of what we've been talking about. They have been the center of the turning point, right? Missed chances in the Guardian series. Trust me, this is not a, hey, don't worry, offense, you're off the hook because of the way that you played today. But today's game in particular is not on the Mets, the Mets offense. 2 runs in the first, run in the second, run in the third, run in the fourth. They had a 5-0 lead before the bottom of the 4th inning. Set up Sean Manaea for success. Set up this bullpen for success. Felt like you were finally going to get to see exactly what the Mets have drawn up since the trade deadline. Okay, we get out to an early lead. This is what I've been saying when it's about the quality over the quantity for the starters. If Manaea would have just gotten through 4 or 5 innings, I wouldn't have complained about the length that he went in this game. We've been obsessed with the length of these starting pitchers, and it's not about that. They had a 5-0 lead today. If Manaea gets through those 5 innings clean, they could have turned it over to the bullpen with a day off tomorrow, utilized all the guys, Reed Garrett. They could have used Tyler Rogers, used the bullpen exactly the way that they used it today, got this lead, got on a plane back home, and a day off tomorrow, and then they start a little mini homestand. That's what was in the cards. It was right there, and things started to go off the rails there in the bottom of the 4th inning. Some really hard hit contact against Manaea. And while ultimately it didn't really matter, although it did because the 2-run home run changed things, I don't know why Manaea got a chance to go out there for the 5th inning. I understand the bullpen was a little short today. I understand that we've been obsessed with length out of the starters, but after a 3 spot in the 4th inning, you have a 5-3 lead. You pick up a run in the top of the 5th to make it 6-3. I'm going to my bullpen. I'm getting those gears in motion now. Reed Garrett was already up, ready to go in the 4th. I'm going to him clean inning to start the 5th. Again, you put Manaea in there to start the 5th, a hit. Garrett gives up the home run. Now all of a sudden, a 6-3 game is 6-5. Whereas if that home run gets hit, I don't know if that home run gets hit, but let's just say it does. Now it's 6-4 instead of 6-5 because you kept Manaea in the game. Again, there is an obsession right now. We've talked about it here on the postcast. There's an obsession on the broadcast and in Mets media in general. There is an obsession with length out of the starters. And I get it. You cannot work this bullpen every single day. But the more important thing is the quality that you're getting from the starters. And to me, at the end of that 4th inning, I was not getting the quality from Manaea that I needed to today. I was not going to allow this game to get back into the Brewers' hands, because what have we learned from this series about Milwaukee? They are going to take advantage if you leave the door open. I have it there on the sidebar, the difference between the Brewers and the Mets. The New York Mets do not take advantage. They did the start of the year. There was a nice stretch there in the beginning of the season where they took advantage of teams' mistakes. The Brewers take advantage of every single mistake that a team makes. It is, if you are a Brewers fan, it must be fascinating and fun to watch that team every day take advantage of when a team opens the door. And the Mets, they don't take advantage when other teams open the door, and they open the door for everybody else. That's the way this team has been playing right now. It can be boiled down to that sentence. The Mets don't take advantage when other teams open the door, but they are the first to open the door for other teams and invite them right in. That is the way this team is playing right now. Today's game in particular, the perfect example of it. Just the perfect example of this game. The turning point, I don't know. Let me hit the open, and then we'll see. We'll see what the turning point in this game was.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I think I'm going to pick exactly the moment I was just talking about, where Manaea stayed in this game in the 5th. Collins gets the single, then Contreras hits another home run to make it 6-5. Perhaps if Garrett starts that inning, he gets Collins right away. Now you have 1 out when you're facing Contreras. I mean, he got the next 2 batters. So even if he gets Collins and gives up the homer to Contreras at 6-4 instead of 6-5, that does change things. So we'll pick that as the turning point in this game, because it brought it close to where just a couple of hits allowed the Brewers to get right back in it, and they can string some stuff together. I cannot believe here we are talking about another Mets loss and the way that they lost today's game. I mean, they're up 5-0. You're thinking, how could this possibly go sideways? And then yet we saw it in the 4th, we saw it in the 5th, and then we saw it in the 8th and the 9th, to the point when the home run goes over the fence. I wasn't even surprised. I wasn't even surprised that it happened. And you got Carlos Mendoza afterwards saying they pretty much outplayed us. Yeah, Carlos, they did. They outplayed you. They outmanaged you. They outcoached you. I mean, the Brewers clearly were the better team in this series. Should be no doubt about it that the Brewers are the better team. And there should be no surprise with how good this Brewers team has been all year, that you gave them chance after chance after chance, and they took advantage. You had a lead in all 3 games this weekend. A lead in all 3. It is unfathomable the new ways that this team invents and continues to find ways to lose. Not find ways to win. They find ways to lose. said it in a tweet during the game. The Mets have a ton of problems, right? Starting pitching, not giving you length and or quality. Offense, before today, struggling all over the place. Struggling. A bullpen that can't hold on to a lead. All of those are problems. And then you have a team that also just can't get out of their own way. Not their fault, but a pitch clock violation against them last night. The debate on whether or not Tyrone Taylor should have been sent the other night against the Guardians. You just have a team right now that can't get out of their own way. And I don't know what is going to change this. I don't know if a starter all of a sudden going 6 innings is going to change the fortunes of this team, because this stuff spirals and it starts to become a mental thing. You start to worry if they just think they're doomed to not get out of this spiral. And it's just happening at the worst possible time. Even though they're all 1 of 162, these games feel more important. Your post-trade deadline, there's no move that you can make to fix this team. The group you have is the group that's got to get it done. Now, maybe the offense playing well could spark them, but I don't know how anything sparks you when you blow a 5-run lead the way that they did after losing the first 2 games of this series in the fashion that they lost the first 2 games of the series, the way that they've lost 7 games in a row now, to where we now have to, we're not scoreboard watching the Phillies. I need the SNY broadcast to stop showing me what's going on with Philadelphia. Keep me updated on what's going on in Cincinnati, because that's the concern right now for the New York Mets. There is not a concern about what was happening in Philly. I think it is foolish to scoreboard watch Philadelphia right now. Absurd to put that on the broadcast. This is not a division-winning baseball team right now. They're playing nowhere near a division-winning baseball team. The team that we all need to be focusing on outside of the New York Mets, because it doesn't matter what's happening in Cincinnati or Philadelphia if we're being truly honest. The only thing that matters right now is what's happening for the Mets, either at Citi Field when they start a 3-game series with Atlanta on Tuesday, or in this case, what they were doing over the weekend in Milwaukee. I do not care what the scoreboard says in any other city for any other team. The only score that we all should be caring about right now is the New York Mets, because until they get out of this hole, until they snap this 7-game losing streak, until they snap 11 of their last 12, and they start going on a run like Milwaukee's been going on right now, like other teams have been going on in baseball, right? Cleveland's playing great as of late. Unless you start going on a run like that, I don't care what's happening in Cincinnati. I especially don't care about what's happening in Philadelphia. You just can't make this up for the New York Mets. They are just finding new ways to lose. Luckily, we all get a day off tomorrow. We all get a day off tomorrow from this. And the Mets are back in action on Tuesday to start a 3-game series, a little mini homestand against the Atlanta Braves. 3, and then they have 3 over the weekend in Seattle. The stuff to keep an eye on, Cedric Mullins, as I mentioned earlier, his first home run as a New York Met. Hopefully that gets him going so he can start to be productive as part of this offense. Francisco Lindor struggling 0 for 4. He had the defensive woes yesterday, still struggling with his bat. He needs to just have a day, both in the field and at the dish, that gets him hit mentally. Because I mean, he had the outburst yesterday, slamming his glove, and that's uncharacteristic of him. And I get it. I love the emotion. I love seeing him frustrated, because that's how we feel. That's how we feel watching the game at home. But he just needs to have one good day to potentially get him back. And the Mets will win again at some point. I think it's fair to say they will find a way to win here at some point. But man, it's getting hard to see if and when that's going to happen, because everything has been going wrong for this team. And then Brandon Nimmo continues to struggle. He did draw 2 walks, did lay down the sacrifice bunt. And I do wonder if the sacrifice bunt is just a product of where he is mentally right now. And again, I'll keep saying this until I'm blue in the face. We need to start talking about a time when there's a day off for Brandon Nimmo at some point. They moved him up to the 3 spot because, again, they're just trying anything to find some consistency with their offense. There needs to be a day off for Brandon Nimmo here. There just needs to be. And another thing to keep an eye on, I did mention it a little bit ago, but I want it to be my closing thought. And I think this falls on me, responsible as a host of a Mets media entity. We need to stop being obsessed with length from the starters, because this obsession with length is leading to Carlos Mendoza leaving in his starters longer than he needs to. And this obsession is going to cause more games like this, where you leave the starter in too long, some runs score, now you're putting the bullpen in a really untenable spot, and you're just hoping that they can always pull the rabbit out of a hat. The Mets just need to focus on quality. If it's 4 or 5 solid innings and the Mets have a lead, fine. But you have to look at the warning signs. You have to look at the command of the pitcher. You have to look at the velocity on the fastball. Manaea was fading there a little bit. He did gear it up when he needed it to late in that fourth inning. But they cannot just try to go square peg, round hole and force these starters to keep going just because we need length, we need length, we need length. We need this team. If you're Carlos Mendoza, needs to focus on winning the game at hand. Worry about tomorrow, especially when you've lost 11 of your last 12. I'm all out of words. I don't know. I don't have the answers. Somebody earlier asked, what's wrong with this team? I'm still searching. I'm still trying to figure it out, why this team with this much talent is struggling the way that they are. And again, today is a day where you can't point at the offense, and yet here we are still talking about a team that is struggling. And you just tip your cap. Milwaukee is the better baseball team. Milwaukee is the more buttoned-up baseball team. Milwaukee does all the little things right, and Milwaukee does the one thing the Mets have not done in a really long time. They take advantage of your mistakes. If you open the door, Milwaukee is going to come storming in. That is going to do it for us here on the Mets Postcast, here, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you are notified when we go live here after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. For those of you listening to us over in the podcast feed and you want to join us live, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel is your place to be. But we love you podcast listeners for listening to this after the fact. We are out of here. A day off for all of us here tomorrow. Back Tuesday night to recap the start of a mini homestand when the Mets will welcome in NL East foe, the Atlanta Braves. Braves aren't playing that great of baseball. Hopefully the Mets can find something at home. But I'll tell you, if they struggle, especially with their offense, those Bluebirds are going to be out in full storm this week against first Atlanta and then Seattle. And we will be here to break it all down, good, bad, or indifferent. Everybody, have a good rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Have a good one, Mets fans.